My name is Robert Henderson. I'm 85 years old. There are some truths that only come to you when it's too late to do anything about them. I'm sitting here in my kitchen at 2:47 in the morning.
I can't sleep anymore. Haven't been able to for months now. The doctors say it's normal at my age, but I think it's something else. I think my mind knows I'm running out of time, and it won't let me waste what's left on sleep. My wife Dorothy used to say I was stubborn. She'd shake her head and laugh when I'd dig my heels in about something. "Robert," she'd say, "you're gonna argue with the wind if it blows the wrong way." She was right, but she never knew just how right she was. Dorothy passed 3 years ago. Lung cancer. 47 years we were married. 47 years of me thinking I knew what love was. 47 years of me thinking I was a good husband. I want to tell you about the morning she asked me to stay home from work. It was a Tuesday in April. Spring was just starting to show itself. She'd been feeling tired for weeks, but we both figured it was just getting older. She was 79. I was getting ready for work like always, had my coffee, read the headlines, put on my tie. Dorothy was still in her robe, sitting at this same table where I'm sitting now. She looked small that morning, smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Robert," she said quietly, Would you maybe stay home today?" I stopped adjusting my collar. She never asked me to stay home, not in 44 years of marriage at that point. "Stay home?" I asked. "What for?" She looked down at her hands. "I don't know. I'd like the company." And here's the part that still makes my chest tight when I think about it. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 7:23. I had a department meeting at 9. Henderson's Hardware had been in my family for 60 years. I was proud of that store. I was proud of being reliable, being there every day, opening on time. "Dorothy, I can't just not show up. I've got that meeting with the suppliers this morning, and Jim's coming in to look at the new inventory system." She nodded, just nodded, didn't argue, didn't push back, just said, "Of course, I understand." I kissed her forehead like I always did and went to work. That was the day she called Dr. Martinez about the cough that wouldn't go away. The cough I'd been hearing for 2 months, but figured was just the season changing. She went to that appointment alone. She heard the words, "We need to run some tests," alone. She drove herself home and waited until I got back at 6:30 to tell me. By the time I walked through the door, she already knew something was wrong, really wrong. I could see it in her face. "How was your day?" I asked, like always. "Robert," she said, "I need to tell you something." The next 18 months were the hardest of our marriage, not because Dorothy was sick, though that was hard enough, but because I kept doing what I'd always done. I kept going to work. I kept opening the store. I kept being reliable Robert Henderson, the man you could count on. Except Dorothy needed someone she could count on too, and I didn't understand that then. During her treatments, I'd drop her off at the hospital and go to work. "I'll pick you up when you're done," I'd say. "Call the store when you're ready." I thought I was being practical, thought I was keeping life normal while everything else was falling apart. I'd work all day, come home tired, and ask her how she was feeling. She'd say she was fine. We'd eat dinner, watch the news, go to bed. What I didn't see was that Dorothy had stopped talking to me about the things that mattered. She'd stopped telling me she was scared, stopped mentioning how the treatments made her feel, stopped asking me to just sit with her. The truth I learned too late is this: being reliable isn't the same as being present. One evening, about 6 months before she died, I came home to find Dorothy crying at this kitchen table. Real tears, the kind she never let me see. "What's wrong?" I asked. She wiped her eyes quickly. "Nothing, just tired." But I sat down across from her anyway. Something made me stay instead of going to check the mail or turn on the news. "Dorothy," I said, "tell me what's wrong." She looked at me for a long time, like she was trying to decide something. "I went to treatment today," she said finally. "I know, I dropped you off. Mrs. Chen was there again. You remember her? The Chinese lady with the daughter who brings her flowers every week?" I nodded. "She asked me where my husband was. She said she sees all these other wives with their husbands, holding hands during treatment, talking quietly, just being together." My stomach started to feel heavy. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her you're working, that you're very responsible, very dedicated." Dorothy's voice got quiet. "She looked sad for me, Robert. She felt sorry for me." I didn't know what to say. "I've been thinking," Dorothy continued, "about all the times I asked you to stay, all the times I said I'd like the company, and I started wondering if you didn't want to be there with me." "Of course I want to be there. You know I love you." "Do I?" she asked, and it wasn't angry or accusatory. It was just honest. "When was the last time you chose me over something else?" I couldn't answer her question. I sat there in the same chair I'm sitting in now, trying to remember a single time I'd put Dorothy first. When had I ever said no to work, to responsibility, to the store, just to be with my wife? "Dorothy," I said, "the store, it's for us. Everything I do is for us." She reached across the table and put her hand over mine. Her fingers were so thin by then, so cold. "I know you think that, but Robert, I don't need the store. I need you." That night I lay awake listening to her breathe beside me. She'd gotten so quiet in her sleep. Even her breathing seemed smaller. I thought about what she'd said, about Mrs. Chen feeling sorry for her, about wondering if I wanted to be there. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 45 years of owning Henderson Hardware. I called my assistant manager, Jim, and told him to open the store, told him to handle the Tuesday delivery, told him I wouldn't be in. "Everything okay, Mr. Henderson?" he asked. "Dorothy has treatment today. I'm going with her." When I told Dorothy I was driving her and staying for the whole thing, she just looked at me, didn't say anything, but her eyes got bright. We sat together in that treatment room for 4.5 hours. Dorothy dozed off sometimes from the medication, and I'd hold her hand and watch her face, really look at it. I saw things I'd never noticed before, little lines around her eyes that hadn't been there when we met, a small scar on her chin from when she fell off her bike as a child, a story she'd told me dozens of times, but I'd never actually looked at the scar. At one point, she woke up and saw me studying her face. "What are you looking at?" she whispered. "You," I said. "Just you." She smiled. It was the first real smile I'd seen from her in months. That became our routine. Every treatment, I'd close the store. Every doctor's appointment, I'd be there, not in the waiting room, but in the room with her, holding her hand when they gave her news we didn't want to hear. Dorothy started talking to me again,
Started telling me when she was scared, when the pain was bad, when she just needed to cry. She'd been carrying all of it alone for so long. One day, about 6 months before she died, we were sitting in Dr. Martinez's office getting test results. The cancer had spread. There wasn't much more they could do. On the drive home, Dorothy said something I'll never forget. "Robert," she said, looking out the passenger window, "these past few months, having you there, it's been like being married to you all over again." I had to pull the car over, just stopped right there on Maple Street and cried. "All over again?" I asked. "I felt like I lost you somewhere along the way," she said. "Not to another woman or anything like that. I lost you to everything else, to the store, to being responsible, to always having something more important to do." She turned to look at me. "But these past few months, I got my husband back." The truth I learned too late is this. Dorothy had been lonely in our marriage for years, maybe decades. She'd been sitting